We just completed the demo of the firebox floor and the raised hearth. We got down to this concrete slab, and we found this little gem. I thought I'd share it with you. It says RCH 11380, and they poured it at 8:20 in the morning. Hydrated lime is an additive that's added to Portland-based mortars to make the mortar better, more plastic, feel better, add stick. Slaked lime is something that would have been used in historical masonry. So slaked lime is what I use for historical work. I just add the lime putty with sand, and I make mortar with it. And you can make whatever mix you want. You can make it as strong as you want or as soft as you want. We'll probably use like a 3-to-1 mix, which is a typical mix for using slaked lime. Okay, so this stuff comes from Italy. There's only one place in the United States that makes it that I know of, and I think that you can only get it aged for like 3 months. The guy I bought this from, he bought a whole container from Italy years ago. He does it every once in a while, and he said that he aged this for 84 months. It came aged 3 to 6 months, and he said he aged it himself for 84 months before I actually bought it. And I bought this stuff. This is the last of the stuff I had from a job I did in 2016. So I've had it for quite a while too. I guess 7 or 8 years now. So the longer it ages and slakes in the water, the better it gets for laying brick or for making mortar. So this is how it's stored, and when you store it, you always keep water on top. And so the first thing you're going to do to use it is dump the water off the top. Don't waste the water, because this stuff is like gold. You want to use the water for certain things and mixing, and then also you need the water to store this again. You don't ever want to store it without water on top. I've been storing this in my garage since 2016, where it does get down to freezing, and it's still good. This stuff will stay good forever. Obviously it doesn't freeze terribly hard because the bucket's not cracked or anything. So I'm gonna dump it off, and you're gonna see what it is. It's gonna be your intro. Wear eye protection if you want. I'm not gonna do it. I just don't care. And this is what it looks like underneath. See, at the top it looks kind of weird, but when you get down into it, it's like this, it's almost like a sour cream kind of mixture, you know? So this is actual lime putty. And we're gonna use this lime putty. I got some on this brick here, but so if you can see, you know, these corners that I made for the fireplace, for the Rumford fireplace that we're working on, they have all these aggressive pores in them, and it doesn't really match the face. So what I've done is I've collected the brick tests from when I did all the cutting. Just swept all the dust off the back of my saw, and I've been keeping it. And now I'm gonna mix the dust with some putty to put on here, and hopefully it will match. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna start with. And if I don't like it, I'm just gonna change it as I go. So I'll take a bit and I'll mix this all together dry, and then I'm gonna add some bonding agent as I go. And I'm gonna make like a really thick kind of paint putty to smear in those holes. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish mixing this up here into this kind of really thick paint or paste, right? And then this is what I'm gonna use to try to fill these pores, okay? It doesn't matter how you do it, you just gotta, you know, I got this like old stucco sponge here, and I'm just gonna do it like that, okay? and I'll fill up all those kind of like pock marks that I made when I cut and when I sanded it. I exposed all those marks, and now this will hopefully match pretty good with the brick. Maybe what I'll find is that I want to do the whole face just to kind of help it out a little bit, so the color match is pretty good. Okay, so we've gone through and we did we hit these with that lime putty and brick dust, right? But they've flashed white because of the lime in there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through, and I've just used the brick dust with this bonding agent, which is pretty much like a glue. And you just mix it with a little brick dust, and I'm gonna paint it on like this, nice and easy. Okay, that's it, right? And then after it dries, it's gonna be like this. So the color will stay. But we've done a lot of demo to get to this point. This is what we're looking like, and we're just to the point now where we're ready to start laying some stuff. We've gutted everything out, the hearth. I've just roughly laid the firebox out on the floor to check that what I have for clearances, to see if I had to take any of this firebox out. So I took some of the sides off and I took this back portion off, and now I'll have room to build that firebox inside of this space. No need taking this stuff out because I need that thickness anyway. So this is the smoke chamber. We have ground all the black tar and creosote off of here. So our smoke chamber mix will stick nicely to it. We're gonna have, you know, this will all be parged with Formula 51 smoke chamber stuff into a stainless liner that's coming through, a round stainless that will go up. We've saw cut and toothed out all this brickwork, and so we can tie in our brick from the firebox in the face. So one of the things that we noticed was this smoke chamber here is only considered 4 inches thick. It needs to be a minimum of 8 inches thick. So I have to add to that. But if you come in here and look up, you can see the issues that we're having here. It's kind of, it's definitely, it's different how they did it, because one of the things we found out is the whole chimney above is bearing on the smoke chamber and not any of this brickwork here. So the smoke chamber comes up, and then the entire weight of the chimney on top of it is bearing down. It's not a huge chimney, so this is how it's done. Sometimes you just have to look out for it, but other times the weight of the chimney, most times it's bearing on the brickwork, the brick shell around it. So when you're doing demo, you just have to be mindful and look out for these things, because obviously you don't want to just demo the whole smoke chamber and then have stuff fall down on top of you. So we're going to add some block work here, so we get our full 8 inches thick all the way up to that point up there. When we transition to the flue, we only have to be 4 inches thick. So that's how high I have to get my block work, up to the transition point of the flue. And then this side has the clay liner back there, and obviously it wasn't sealed up right. And so we took the flue buster and busted the flue out the whole way to the basement, because we're putting a stainless liner in. And with that clay flue, we wouldn't have been able to, sometimes you can do it, but this one, it wouldn't have worked with the turns. We wouldn't have fit our liner with insulation down to the basement around those turns. So it was easier just to bust them out first. Yeah, so now, finally, after all this, we're gonna get laying in here. I still have to cut the steel for the crane. I'm gonna cut those off because that might get into the way slightly. We're starting to mix the lime putty mortar now, and I want you to take a look at the sand. The sand that we're using today is just basically it's a fine mortar sand. It does have little tiny chunks of stone in it, nothing too big. It's a pretty good finely graded mortar sand. That's what we're going to use. We want nice tight joints, so we're going to start off with 2 sand and 1 lime putty, and I'm just using this 1 gallon container to measure everything. So I'm going to dump the putty in there, I'm going to mix it up, and at the end I'm going to add the last 1 gallon of mortar sand. So then I'll have a 3-to-1 ratio. Okay, so that's the 2-to-1 ratio. So I've got 2 sand, 1 lime putty. You can see that this stuff is just incredibly sticky. If it was, you know, if this was a little thicker mix, you could use it for repointing or something. If you wanted it really strong, you could use a 2-to-1 mix. But we're gonna do 3-to-1, so I'm gonna add the last sand to it. Okay, we want nice consistent batching, so you know, I always use a bucket or something like that to measure everything. So we got 3-to-1. This will give us 4 gallons of mix. Okay, we're gonna keep mixing for a bit, but this is 3-to-1, and you see it's getting a little bit more sandy and it's getting stiff, right? This is gonna be brick mud, so I can't be having it this stiff. So I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of water as I go. I'm just gonna use the water that was poured off the top of the lime putty to add a little bit as I go and thoroughly mix this the rest of the way. Okay, so this is pretty good. It's all completely mixed now, 3-to-1. You can see it's kind of like, it's definitely more sandy than it was last time, but it's still very sticky. I mean, that's pretty sticky stuff. It's like this, the sand has made it like this brownish color. I don't know if you can tell compared to the bucket, but it looks like it's more of like an off-white here. But this stuff will dry against the brickwork. It will seem like a brilliant white color. For a lot of people, it might be too white. So, you know, you can easily put pigment in it before you start if you're trying to match historical work or whatever. So the one really cool thing about this mortar is I've got it mixed, and there's no rush. I don't have to lay this. I could walk away and not worry about it. It doesn't have a 2-hour shelf life like the Portland-based mortars that we use nowadays. This literally goes into tomorrow. It's fine. If you put a lid on that, it will just stay good. And so if you're going to store it for a long time, you could shake it down, put a little bit of water on top, put a lid, and it's not going to go bad. You just stir it up and use it. So it's, you know, if I have some of this left at the end of the day on my mud board, all I have to do is cover it in a piece of plastic or something, and the next day you show up and you're ready to use it. Yeah, it doesn't really start going off until you lay brick with it, and it has a chance to get the air after you've laid it. So it's really, once it's mixed, it's really easy to work with. Obviously, it doesn't set up like Portland-based mortars as quick. So, you know, if you're in a rush and you're trying to build stuff really fast, it does need time to set up. We've got all the brick laid in for the base here. Before we start in our firebox walls, I'm just starting to get it dry laid out, make sure everything's going to work out how I need it to. You can see that I put some foil back here. I just want, I'm going to leave room for expansion. I don't want this mudded in tight to this existing structure, so I'm going to leave room for expansion with that. And then after I build these firebox walls up, I'm going to have that insulation right there. I'm going to put that behind it as I go, to give relief, you know, from this existing structure. I want this firebox to be able to move and expand with heat. So next step is I'm going to start building the wall. So I've got this laser plumb bob. I'm going to shoot some lines up here. I'm going to tag them in, and I'll probably get lines on the corner on the back. And then so I'm going to just lay this firebox off those lines. These brick vary a bit, so I'm going to be laying mostly by eye, and I'll get it pretty close. It's just, you know, the brick do vary in shape and size a bit. So, but I want the joints tight. So I'm using this lime putty mortar, and it's going to be super tight. So some bricks are bigger, some are smaller. I'm going to have to use them where I need to stay roughly level as I go up. But those lines, the jack lines, will help me a lot, stay where I need to be. This mortar, obviously, this stuff is the star of the show. You know, the funny thing is, if you listen to it, it sounds gritty, but it's actually just, it's just so sticky. It's so nice to use compared to the regular gray mud, and your tools just stay clean. And then when we go for lunch, you know, I don't have to do anything with this mud. I just leave it. It's not going to set up on me. If I have mud left at the end of the day, just cover it with a piece of plastic or something and just leave it on the mud board. It'll be good in the morning. You know, mix it up a little bit and lay brick with it. Stuff is amazing. I wish we used this stuff more. But yeah, things are going good. We'll have to join up in a little bit. And that's the other thing, you know, with this, it doesn't set up so fast. So if you put in some of these brick and you want to come tap this brick back later, a couple minutes later, you have time to work with it. So with gray mud, the stuff, or even the refractory, if you're doing fire brick, they set up so fast. You know, once you set the brick, it's done. You're not gonna tap it and get it to move. And you kind of need to get this stuff to move because this brick is just, it's not flat. It's distorted and has like cups. So you're just looking for a happy medium with everything. All right, pay attention. I'm gonna show you the best trick that I know for masonry. You're gonna use it all the time. This little trick, it's not my trick, but this is called the cow hitch, okay? I'm getting ready to set a jack line for this fireplace, and I'm gonna show you the cow hitch, okay? So you start with a little bite of line. This is called a bite when you start midline, okay? You take your two fingers, your thumb and your index, you stick it inside the loop. I'll make the loop bigger so you can see it. Put it inside the loop, okay? Bring your fingers around, pull it together like that, and then you have the two loops connected, okay? Just like that. Now we're gonna come over here, and we're gonna hang it on there and pull it tight, just like that, okay? Now it's tight, that's the cow hitch.
This is what lime putty mortar looks like the next morning after it sits overnight. Look at that stuff. It's still good to go. Hasn't set up at all. All we did was cover it with a tarp for the night, and it's ready to go. Gonna give it a quick spin, and I'll be able to throw that right on the mud board and use it.
We're gonna end up building it about this tall before we think about putting our granite lintel across. Couple unexpected things, when I originally laid it out that I wasn't thinking of. We're gonna have a flush hearth on here, and so that's a 2-inch thick, like antique piece of granite. And I ended up having, off of the start, I had to rip all my floor pieces down because they were just too thick, and it would have made the firebox higher than the existing floor height. You can see this piece of 3/4 inch plywood is representing the hardwood floor that's going to go on. It's going to be 3/4 inch thick, so that's where we want our firebox floor and the granite hearth slab to end up at. So I had to rip that, which kind of put me at an awkward spot with this brick coming up. But I got it sorted out, and I'm tying it in. Every so many brick I can tie it back over. I just have to notch around them. You can see that my level here, I had to build this wall out beyond the existing brickwork because the wall was racked a little bit. So I wanted everything to be flat coming across. So I've got that level there and this level here, and everything's true coming through. I've got my lines marked up here. I've got them marked on ones. Anybody that knows how to lay out brickwork knows that ones are really tight. We're trying to get all this stuff super tight. In the video, the mortar joints might not look tight, but these brick are actually, they're pretty much touching in a lot of spots. So I can't get them tighter than this. I'm trying to get ones. If some brick are a little thicker, we go a little higher. No big deal. But everything's coming together nice. I've got the insulation back behind here, and I'm gonna, after I, smooth parge every 2 courses or so, I'm gonna reach back there and smooth parge behind the brick so it's all nice and tight and sealed. And then I'm gonna put this insulation behind there, and then I'm gonna fill behind that with just regular gray mud behind all that. I'm not gonna use the lime putty mud to do that because there's no point. And that will give the firebox room for expansion. So, when this fire gets super hot, that brick's gonna wanna move. That will give it the room to move. You'll probably still, get some cracking in the brickwork and the mortar because it's fire, but it will relieve pressure. So I did a quick measurement from here to the back of the chimney to see what our total thickness is. And from this face of the brick, we have 19 inches of solid masonry to the back, which is crazy. So we have plenty of thickness to do what we're doing. Keep in mind with clay brick, when we're doing it with this lime putty mortar and clay brick, they want 12 inches of total thickness. So we have more than we need. The wood trim is going to be wood paneling all around this, and the wood paneling is basically going to start from my jack line here and come in 6 inches all the way around, 6 inches up, and then from the lintel it'll be 6 inches up, and at that 6-inch mark we can protrude out 1.5 inches. So that's what we're working on doing. When the guy does the paneling, it's going to be 1.5 inches thick. We can't be beyond that. I've just got my jack lines here, and I'm pretty much just building it freehand. I'm trying not to use a level because it's pointless with this brick. It varies and it has twists and there's like bulges in it. So I'm just laying it freehand. But these 4 lines here, they're really keeping me where I need to be. And then this is keeping this front nice and flat. So I just jump my line up, and I know that I'm going to be, I don't care about being with this brickwork on the side. I just care about being flat across the face. So when they come in with that wood paneling, everything will be nice and flush and flat and easy to work with. And basically I just drilled into the masonry with some Tapcons, and I hung my lines like that. With anything masonry, you always want to start with the corners. I don't want to start with the back corner. I want to start with the front corner that's going to show. These ones aren't perfect. So you just gotta, just like all this brick, find, a happy medium with it and make sure everything is as flat as can be. I'm gonna lay these a little bit different than I would with regular mortar. I like to go to the board with the brick instead of the traditional pick and dip, bring it over. I want these mortar joints really thin, so I like to just smear it on the brick like this, and then I can take my trowel and just kind of thin out that joint. And while I'm doing this, making it real thin, I can feel for the pebbles in here. So it's mostly fine sand, but once in a while I find a stone in there that's like a 1/2 inch. And I just think it's the place we buy it from. When they're moving stuff with a loader bucket, they have a couple extra stones in there once in a while. So I'll find a 3/8 or 1/2 inch stone that I wouldn't find if I brought the mortar over there and went to the work. So I do it here. then I can, you know, define my joint mostly and find the rocks. So that's why I do it here. And you only can really do that when your mud's sticky. Like this is sticky, like refractory. If it was regular mortar, it wouldn't be this sticky, so it wouldn't be as easy for the mud to just hold on there. So now I'm just gonna go to the work with it, and I'm basically gonna, when you're laying brick, you mostly, or anything, you're mostly doing it all with your hands. So you're just gonna shake it and work it like that, and then it will vibrate the mortar out. And then you just get it, you know, with this line. I watched this line here to see what's going on with this line and then this line. And so I know that I'm just kind of rolling ever so slightly. I'm just gonna pull it forward to the line and get the roll out of it. And that's it. I'm not gonna fuss with the level too much. I'm just gonna eyeball that joint. In this joint here, if you look at it, it looks bigger than it is. It's really tight. So keep in mind, these are on ones. Ones are super tight. And I'm gonna grab a brick and try to find a decent face. It's not all these bricks are worthy, so they're just, some of them are a little too distorted, but this one's all right. Same thing, I do the same treatment for the side here, and then I take it and I just try to flatten that out. Try to flatten it out so I don't have to press so hard on it when I'm bonding it together. I've done it wrong.
7-inch.
I noticed it right away.
I noticed, but I didn't want to say anything in the
You
video.
noticed it on video?
I didn't want to say. I didn't want to interrupt the video.
All right, so that one had to be a 7. Everybody makes mistakes.
I should have just told you.
Okay, so this one has to be a 7. That brick was way too big. I cut all these 7s for that spot. Just got a little distracted. See, you'll see me do this, and then eventually I'm gonna find that chunk. Hopefully I've got most of the chunks out, but I keep finding some pebbles here and there that I don't want to get under my brick when I'm trying to lay it. So I'm gonna shake it in here nice and tight. Just didn't get enough to the face on that one. Okay, so the nice thing about this brick's a little bit thinner than the one next to it, but the nice thing about this lime putty is you have a little bit of working time. So if this one's a little higher, I can actually just tap it down a little bit to kind of get it to flush out more. You know, for old clay brick, you know, we just got to get close. That's it. And then some of these brick, you can see that it rounds a little bit. So you can only get so tight against the head joint because it has like a rounded part in the brick. So in a lot of cases, these head joints are touching, but you can't tell. Or the brick are touching in the head joint, but you can't tell. You can hear it. That pebble in there, I missed it, and it doesn't let me get down. There's just a little pebble in there. You can hear it grinding. Okay. I'm creeping up on my line a little bit, so I'm gonna try to get this a little tighter. There you go. And those ones will work. Okay. Let me do that. All right, that side, and then now we'll work on this side here. Felt it. There's a bigger one in here. Look at this. This is what you gotta have your laborer do in his off time. Look at that big rock in there. You know, that doesn't come in the sand. It gets transferred with the loader bucket at the place. And a lot of times they're hiding in here, and you don't know they're in there until you go to lay the brick and it's underneath. So if you can have your laborer just kind of shake down the mud like this, you can hear it right when it hits. Hear it? And it's another rock. I would have my laborer do it, but my laborer doesn't do shit. My laborer is a cameraman, so my roll it, tap it forward. There we go. And this one, let me get that joint tight, right? Pull that in. Okay, this one's higher. This one's higher than the line. There's nothing I can do about it. That brick is it's just thicker. I'm trying to get ones, which are almost impossible. So this one is just a tad higher than the line. You might not see it from there, but it's just something I'm gonna live with. And then the next course, I'll just get it a little bit more. Maybe the brick will be skinnier and it'll be back on ones. Anytime you tooth something, when you're toothing brickwork, you don't leave it for later. You just you grab your joiner and you make sure it's completely full before you move on. Okay, this one's gonna be a 7 as well. Got a little lip here. I know that this lip is going to prevent me from getting tight, so I'm going to try to take care of that first. Okay. So before I go down with the brick, I'm going to just wiggle it. Always get your head joint set into the other brick before you go down. And see, I was able to shake that in nice and tight. Right there. Okay, we'll see how this cut fits. Yeah, that'll be fine. I just do this a little bit. Sometimes I'm looking just to kind of looking for that rock to clear that area that I know that I can grab from there. You still miss them sometimes, but start putting these pieces in. Let me move this one. I have my center mark on this brick, and it's going to be centered with this joint. This joint looks bigger than it looks bigger, but the brick are actually touching in the back. here. If you get mortar on the line, you just take a second to clean it off so it's not touching the brick. Pushed it in. So you gotta be careful on the back wall because you'll start moving this brick here too. You gotta kind of have them. You gotta do it at the same time. Otherwise, you start getting into trouble. Close. Move that one out. And the nice part about this is you can still move these brick down here. If you find that this brick is out a little bit too much, because I'm not using a level, like sometimes my eye is off a little bit, and then I'll put this piece over that's straight, and then I'll just want to straighten out these pieces here and flush everything out. This brick has a really, that's what's going on here. This brick has a wicked twist in the face. So it's trying to leave this back end real high because the face is rolled on it. So we're just gonna work with it. Okay, that's it. That course is in. We're gonna take some time to fill in all our joints. So grab my flat joiner. I keep it clean, so I'm constantly cleaning it and putting it on my pants because it's easy. I just fill these holes. Even though these holes are super tight, these joints on the corners of these ones end up looking much bigger than they are. Take a minute to do all this. So when you go to joint, you don't have to fill these holes when you're joining, and everything has a chance to set up as one. if I wait until later when I go to joint and I want to brush it or something after, I'll smear it all over the brick. So I want it to have a chance to harden up for a bit. Okay. So these cuts were a little bit short of the corner here. So I'll just fill this in with mud. My precious lime putty mud. I try not to use this stuff for filler too much because it's expensive to make. Okay. These brick back here, they don't fit perfect because they're just leftover scrap that I had from cuts. So when I run out of those scrap pieces, then I'll start cutting pieces for there. And now also, I've just built up 2 courses. So I'm gonna varnish the back of it. So I'll just take the mud. And I can reach in there for like this for 2 courses. If I did 3, I maybe could do it, but it's pushing it. So every 2 courses, I'll just parch the back.